Is that a mute issue?
I got it taken care of.
At the beginning, we're tweaking out all of our technology issues. Well, I am so glad to see so many faces here today. Thanks for coming, everybody. Hopefully this will be some good information for you today. I know that I personally have learned several new skills myself dealing and working in our current market. I have worked in a buyer's market and then just normal market. So this has been a little bit of a new experience for myself as well. I think that we've put together some really good information here today to help you. And, you know, everybody's always asking me to present a new class, do a class. Well, I have to try to think of something that's going to be valuable and then how I'm going to write it and how I'm going to present it. I was able to fortunately collaborate with Jeff Funk on this, which you'll see from a class that he had done. But what really spun it off is I have a listing that I got multiple offers in. And I will kindly say that I was very shocked at how some seasoned agents presented their listings and said, all right, now I know how we can put this class together because of the examples of how they did some things that I'm like, all right, everybody needs to know about this. And my mentees will tell you that right after that, when I have my mentee roundtable on Mondays, that Monday morning, I was like, oh my God, you're not going to believe this and this and this and this and this. And everybody was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, class has been born. We have a class. So with the help of Jen and Jeff and Kristen, my assistant, we have created a new class. But I think that even when this market does shifting or this market gets back to buyer's market, whatever it is, I think that these are all really important skills no matter what. And you'll understand as I go through this, because even in a normal market, I see some pretty funky stuff that comes through and I literally just do this. I'm like, I don't get it, because a lot of times it's experienced agents that are doing this. Now, I want to show you some things that y'all can do that's going to really help you to be more competitive and give you a shot at winning the offer. So yeah, as you can see, I've been doing this since dirt. I've been in the business for a really long time. I've been back selling full time since I made the decision in early fall of 2019. Last year was a phenomenal year. This year has been tough. I will say that this has been a tough year, trying to grow from where I was last year, just dealing with everything we're dealing with. And unfortunately, I've calculated about $5 million worth of sales that have been delayed or shifted or whatever. People just couldn't find homes. So, and I'm sure that other people have dealt with that as well, but there's still buyers out there. Don't get me wrong. It's just that seeing that bigger growth that I had expected to see for the year was a little bit more challenging. All right, and then we got Mr. Jeffrey Funk, who many of you already know. He's amazing. He's been in the business since 1999. Love working with Jeff, and he put some great information together as well on a class that he had done. So we kind of shared, I got his okay to share some of his material because mine was so factual and didn't have some of the flow to it. Because those that know me, you know, I'm very direct and to the point. So we had to put in some information to build to the stuff I really want to point out. But, you know, summer, fall, right now, you guys, we're still in a seller's market. So what does that mean? It means that the sellers kind of have the edge on us, that they get to make the decisions and they have the power right now. So what steps are you guys taking to really educate your buyers in this market? Are you letting them know and preparing them for the fact that it could be possibly multiple offers? We have to really look at everything that's going on. And, I tell people, and Jeff just is the one that gave me the word, we have to get intimate real quick. And I am asking people financial questions that I have never, ever asked before. Because, normally I send the lender, let them get pre-qualified, let them do all the monies with them. But I'm having to talk to them about, how much are you putting down? Do you have any additional funds available for, removing appraisal contingencies or coming in over asking price? So I've got to really know their financial makeup. If it's somebody that's in a little bit of a lower price point that's doing like an FHA loan, I've got to prepare them that it could take multiple homes before we can actually find them something and win an offer. I had that happen with one particular buyer. We put in multiple offers, still have yet to get her in a house because we don't have the ability with her to put in additional funds. So, those are things that you need to be talking with them about. We're going to dig into more and more about this as we go here. So, you've got to find ways to make their offer stand out over others. And even with somebody that cannot put additional money down, I'm going to show you some things that could help. Sometimes it comes all down to the money, but sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so what we're going to be going through today is talking about what is conveying in the home or what the buyer wants to ask for, escrow and the escrow agent, the acceptance date, the closing date, financial financing, how much time they're being given, the inspection period, home warranties, your addendums, and then the appraisal contingencies. So we're going to be going through all of that today. And this is being recorded, as you all know. It will be available if you want to go back over it. So conversations, our conversations are key in getting really educated with the buyer, because not only are you educating them, but you need to educate yourself, because you need to know what their situation is and what you can do to be able to put that offer in to be able to win it, because it's literally coming down to, oh my God, we won. And it's sad that that's what we're dealing with, but it is. And really educating your buyer on the fact that the first home that they fall in love with, that they want, no matter how well they bid and everything they do, they still might not get it. Somebody else could very well beat them out. So you've got to prepare them for that, because people, it's a lot of these purchases are emotional, and people buy houses that they feel good in and they can see living in or raising their family in. And when you find that house and you get that attachment, which is what you want them to do, to want them to put an offer in, and then boom, you don't get it. So it's been a lot of counseling with people. I've had to have a lot more conversations, show a lot more homes, act as a counselor to these buyers to understanding what kind of market we're in and what they're dealing with. So you also need to really increase your conversations with your listing agents and, understanding what your buyer's needs are, but also digging down to what their seller is looking for. What does their seller want? I had an offer that we won this summer, and it was in May, I think. They put the house on the market, and we come to find out I was talking to the listing agent, that this seller's new home is not going to be done until August, and they're moving out of state. And I said, well, would they be okay then? Or would it really help them if they have an August closing date? And they're like, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. And I said, well, my buyer's got a Class A motorhome and they're going traveling across the country for a couple months this summer. Let me talk to them, because they've been hanging out in their motorhome because they had to sell their house out of state to make sure that they didn't have a sale of a home contingency. So they've been in their motorhome. So they had already been educated on the market. I've been working with them way before they sold their house out of state. And it worked out great. And it was so weird, but it was under contract for months and months. We all had to like regroup again, but they're in and they love it and everything's awesome. But again, conversations. And if I hadn't called Patty and had that conversation with her and knew what was going on, then I wouldn't have known. And I think that the other thing I want to tell you guys is that, you know, we're starting to see functions and activities and things going on in our market more. One of the biggest competitive edges that I get in the market is knowing other realtors. So get out there and get to know people, any opportunity that there is for realtor networking events, because you get to know these people and there's a chance that you may be putting an offer in with them. And that will really help you in winning that bid because they know you or they want to work with you. I've won multiple bids because they're like, Gretchen, I want to work with you. This is what we need to do to make this deal work. Because they're getting offers from agents that are with brokerages they've never heard of, badly written offers. So that can also really help you in today's market. All right. So setting your client up for success, you know, these people are depending on you to be their advisor. So that's why you need to understand what is going on in the market, what is happening. Understanding inventory in different price points. Those of you that are in my mentor program, how many houses should you be looking at a week? 10. 10. Yay, I see those jazz fingers going. 10. Because when you're watching what's going on in the market and you know, okay, you've got somebody that's looking in the $500,000 range in Dr. Phillips. You should be able to say to them, okay, so, you know, how are you open to doing some work to the home? A lot of homes that are in this area, in this price range, tend to need some updating. Are you open to that? Now, do you guys know that about the Dr. Phillips area in that price range? Well, you should, because you should be looking at the homes. A lot of it you can do on MLS as well. You've got to be familiar with what's happening. You've got to be able to discuss that with your buyers. You need to understand what's going on in new home inventory, getting on as many mailing lists as possible, which you can do that when you go in and visit the new home centers, give them your card, say, I want to be kept up on what's going on in the community. I can't even think of how many I get in my email a day from builders. So do you know what's going on with the association locally? And do you know what's going on nationally? So does anybody here know what's going on in those other markets, in the national and the local level? Anybody have any ideas of where you get that from? I try not to be a talking head. I don't mind getting you all involved.
No idea. That would be great knowledge to learn.
Okay, awesome. Because I actually pulled some stuff up. I'm going to pull off of this screen and I'm going to take you over to my email. So right here, Florida Realtors set up, they sent out, I got the email. This came in, this was actually this morning's. And I was going through here, looking at top stories, what's going on. National Association of Realtors, August existing home sales drop. So what is happening on a national level? So you can click in here and you can start reading about what's happening on a national level. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm going to mute for a second and yell at my dog. The fun of working from home. Okay, guys, sorry about that. This is a great resource to make sure that you're getting your emails from the National Association of Realtors, and make sure that you're getting your updated news from the Orlando Realtors Association, ORA, ORRA, Orlando Regional Realtors Association. Here is another example. What did I do with it? Oh, here we go. You guys should be getting this. This gives you, this is a screenshot of this to use for reference, but August 21 stats. So you can use this as a reference when you're having conversation. Pull bits and pieces out that you can use as reference to speak to. When you do this, you are showing your buyers that you know what's going on in our current market. So you could very easily say to somebody, you know, right now in August, you know, our listings have changed by 45%, blah, 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 blah. Pick out a couple things depending on if you're working with listings, if you're working with buyers, just a couple facts that you can throw out that are probably going to go right over their head anyhow, but it makes you sound very knowledgeable because no matter what, you still know more than they do. As much internet as they have access to, you still know more. So Orlando Regional Realtors Association, as well as the National Association of Realtors, are great spots that you can be going to getting statistical information of what is going on in the market. You can go through and read those articles. Those are the two best places you can go to look. You're going to still pick stuff up from other sites, but that is a very interesting articles that you'll find. The Orlando Business Journal, my husband is now getting that at our home. So we've been going through that and reading it. And we just find out all kinds of interesting stuff in the business journal. So I enjoy that as well. You may be able to get that online, but keeping up on what's happening is really important because what is knowledge? It is power. People want to work with people that know what's going on. They also want to work with people that are asking a lot of questions. And you know, anybody here that's watched my buyer consultation and all the questions that you need to ask, you need to up that even more. That's a traditional class. It doesn't go into to educating people about what's going on in the market and finding out more information from them about their financial situation, how they want to go about putting an offer in. Let your clients know you have a plan. And I'll tell you, that's one thing that I'm really particular about. I tell them that, you know, what we're going to do is I'm going to call the home inspector. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And we're going to go through a lot of that stuff here. I tell them what my plan is. And I let them know I haven't won every offer, but I am winning offers. The things that I am doing are working. And I tell people that. I tell them, you know, we're not going to win them all. But let's go in and give ourselves a chance to be able to be that winning offer. Start communication prior to the showing. You know, here's a quick little script that you guys can reference, and you'll have a copy of this so you can come back to it. You know, calling them and saying, I'd like to set up a showing. My clients are flying in and looking at 3 properties. This home is at the top of their list. I have used that so many times. Is telling them that, you know, these people really are coming into town. We've got 1 or 2 days. This is one they really loved. You know, start forming that relationship, letting them know that they're pre-approved. I tell people straight up, I got a cash buyer. I got a pre-approved buyer. When can you get me in? And I've got times when normally the home isn't available to show, but I'll tell you what, they're moving heaven and earth to get me in because I'm communicating with them when it is something that's important. You know, let them, you know, let them know if that time works for you or if we need to adjust. You know, they want to see it at 1, but, you know, do we need to adjust to be able to get them in? We have some flexibility here. All right. Immediately after the showing, text them, call them, get back to them, let them know that, you know, the client absolutely adored the home. They loved it. They just think it's fantastic. You know, we're going to be writing up an offer. You know, if anything else changes, can you please let me know? I'm really excited to work with you. So if the clients aren't interested, you know, I'll send a quick message. Hey, thanks for letting us in. Unfortunately, this doesn't work for them. What's important to the seller? This is so unbelievably important. Remember how I just found out about the people that, you know, really didn't want to move and close on their house till August. And I just happened to have a buyer that I could make that happen. I mean, it was a perfect scenario. I never would have known that if I hadn't called the listing agent and started finding out what was important to the seller. Are they looking for a quick close? Are they looking for a longer close? Are they looking for a post occupancy? What's important to them? Find that out, because I'm telling you what, it'll let you know how you want to write that offer. Sometimes I've had agents say to me, all they care about is the price. Then you know what you're dealing with. Make those calls and have those conversations. Okay, now we're going to dig into the offer, the actual paperwork. Okay, what's included in the sale? Let me give you an example. This says the washer and dryer and the microwave. The reason the microwave is there is because I don't know why we have built-in microwaves 96% of the time. But you'll notice up in this description, it does not include the microwave. So I always put the microwave in here no matter what. Now, what if the MLS doesn't include the washer and dryer? What if it's not even in there? But your buyer really wants the washer and dryer. In a really competitive situation, is that a good idea to ask for that washer and dryer? I see Shruti going, no. You know, it really isn't, because, you know, is that going to help you and put you in a better situation? They can go out and buy a used washer and dryer for a lot less money than a brand new one, which is exactly what they're getting with this house, is a used washer and dryer. So talk to them about that. Make them understand those things. You know, down in, you know, E is where you're putting things that don't convey. There's many times that we see in listings that will say that maybe the dining room chandelier does not convey, or something else that's in the home that's really important to the seller. This isn't the time to start getting really competitive and having your buyer say, well, we want to ask for the chandelier. Well, that's not a good idea in this market. Now, if you're working in a different market, then if you're in a buyer's market, give you a little tip here. If your seller tells you that they do not want to give the chandelier, what do you do with the chandelier, guys? You get it out of there before you take your photos so that people don't even know about it. Because when you're in a buyer's market, there's a really good chance you're going to lose that chandelier. Get it out now. But in this market, you can do just the opposite. So really pay attention to what is conveying and what is not conveying. Okay, now one of my favorite topics is escrow. Do you see here? Escrow is who's holding the escrow. This doesn't have anything to do with who the closing company is. This is who is holding the escrow. Start thinking about it. Do you need to wait 3 days? If you see here, if blank, then 3 days. Do you really need to wait 3 days to get the money in? Can you have your buyer write out a check and take a picture of it made out to the title company and send that in with the offer that says that you already have the escrow in your hands? And that means you will deliver it to the title company as soon as you've got a signed offer. You're running to that title company as fast as your car can go. Or do you want to make it for 1 or 2 days? You've got to really think about that strategically. Now, see where it says escrow agent name? You guys, that is not Paula Williams or Sally Sue. That is the name of the company. The reason for this is that this is the documentation that you are providing to a buyer, no matter what the market is, that is letting them know who has their money. Because this isn't the seller's money. It's not our money. It's not the title company or the lawyer's money. It's the buyer's money. And this shows them who accurately is holding their money. It is important that this is filled out. I know of a situation, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, 2 agents that got their license suspended because this was blank on a contract all the way through to closing. Bad, bad thing. If you cannot get a hold of the listing agent, if the listing agent has not provided the information in MLS, put in your own title company's information. Say in your offer, sorry, wasn't able to catch who the title company was. I went ahead and put mine in. Happy to change to yours. If you can send me the info, please. But you never, ever send it blank, no matter what the market is. Now check this out. This was an example. This is an offer that came to me. This actually was the winning offer. They said they'd have it over in 2 days. This is my title company. This is another one of the offers that came to me. 3 days, Paula Williams. They didn't put the name of the company. They didn't put the phone number in, which I provided. Can you see that being an issue? Thoughts?
Super important with wire.
Well, yeah, it doesn't actually say who the title company is that's holding. It says Paula Williams is holding the escrow.
Right. Paula Williams isn't holding the escrow. First American Title is. So what the point is that this is just part of all of the things that came in that made this offer, these offers just tragic. Remember I said that it's not always about the price. Who are you going to choose to go back and negotiate with? The best written offer most of the time, because just because there's a higher offer, but a lot of this stuff is bad, wouldn't you want to call the offer that's really clean and say, hey, really like your offer. Seller wants to know if your buyer will be willing to come up in 5, 10, whatever it is, or change the closing date if the offer is already for more money. I mean, it may be that they want to work with you because of your professionalism and try to adjust your offer to match what the best money offer was, or a scenario that better fits the seller. But again, you really should have talked to the agent and known what the seller was looking for, but it could be a price thing. It could be an escrow thing. The seller could have changed their mind on closing, whatever it might be. You want to be the one that they talk to. Okay. I'm scrolling and it's not moving. There it goes. Okay. This one, absolutely love this. You guys check this out on acceptance date. One is blank. They didn't give me one. The other one is, it was actually the next day, because this offer came in on August the 13th. They gave me till the next day at 5 p.m. So what do you think is a good strategic way to put in for an acceptance date? Any feedback here from some agents that have written offers?
About 48 hours, depending on, I mean, if it's a really something in high demand and there are going to be a lot of offers, you know, you've already spoken and then obviously less time.
Okay.
But about 48 hours, maybe, typically.
Anybody else?
I don't ever give more than 24 hours. I sometimes, depending on the time of day it's getting submitted, and if I know, for example, if the seller's in a different time zone, I might, as a courtesy, give a little more time so that the agent has the opportunity to discuss it with the seller and have a meaningful conversation. Otherwise, if I submit it in the morning, I might ask for it that same day. If it's in the afternoon, depending on how competitive, it might be that same evening or it might be the next day. That's just correct on, depending on the circumstances.
Okay, good feedback, guys. And you know what? Both of those are correct. There really is no per se wrong answer, but let me tell you what could be a better opportunity for you. Ask the listing agent how much time they need. Find out, is the seller currently traveling? Is the seller out of town? How much time does the seller need? It could be a scenario that just because their address is in Orlando doesn't mean that they're not out of the country, or even in Hawaii. Gosh, I've had people lately that have been in Hawaii, talk about a time difference. So I find out where the seller is and how much time they need. I also find out, and we've all seen this, sellers and listing agents are putting the house on the market on Thursday, and they're putting down the realtor remarks that, you know, they're not reviewing any offers until Monday morning. So even if you put that offer in Saturday morning or Friday night, you've got to put in there Monday, you know, Monday maybe at 5, so that you're accommodating. If you make it too short, then they're going to think that you're out of the game. So, you know, this has even become a strategic situation. I mean, there's so much of this is becoming strategic and how we can go about this. But both of your answers are correct, you guys. Thank you. You know, the markets are constantly changing, situations, scenarios are changing, but talk to your listing agent and see if that might help you in being a little bit more competitive. Okay, closing date. What works for the seller? What day of the week is it? Days between acceptance and closing. So if we've got, you need to really strategically get your calendar out, and you need to think about this. And I've got calendars in this presentation for us to do some counting on. So this right here was a scenario of a September the 14th and a September the 10th closing date. So let's look at our calendars. September the 14th and September the 10th. Now, just out of curiosity, which day of the week do you guys think is better to close?
14th.
Okay, why? Tell me why.
Because I typically try not to put closings on a Monday or a Friday, because Friday title is trying to get everything done for the week. And then Monday, they're trying to play catch up from the weekend for all the offers that came in over the weekend. So I typically make closings Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursdays.
Perfect. Who'd you learn that from?
Our wonderful coach, Ms. Chris Carlson.
Yeah. Okay. So let me tell you guys a quick story. Vacant property. On this particular one, I really didn't care when it closed. It didn't matter to me. One offer was for September the 10th and one was for the 14th. If I was going after the closing, I would have made it for a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Because just like Melissa said, of what can happen. Well, I went ahead and accepted the offer that closed on Friday the 10th. But I educated my sellers up front. I let them know that there was a very good chance that sometimes wire money doesn't come in. Sometimes things change, and they still want to know what's going on and where the money is. But let them know that it is possible that this file may not fund until Monday morning on September the 13th. If there was any challenges going on with the lender, the buyer, anything on Friday the 10th. Well, guess what, you guys, the buyer on this transaction showed up an hour late. Closing was scheduled at 3:30 on Friday, showed up at 4:30. Wire did not make it in. So guess what? Buyer didn't get their keys until Monday. Don't set your buyers up for failure, because sometimes the lenders don't get the money in. Sometimes buyers get stuck in traffic. Sometimes buyers get stuck at work. Things happen in the real world. What if they had the moving truck scheduled for Saturday morning, like so many people do, because they're so excited that they're closing on their new house on Friday and they're moving over the weekend? We know that happens all the time. That is the reason why I do not schedule closings, especially on Fridays, because I have seen this happen over and over again.
Can I ask a question about that, Gretchen?
Absolutely.
So let's say in this scenario, they showed up an hour late to closing, so it didn't fund. Does that open an opportunity for the seller to say, you didn't close on time, the contract is now void and the seller gets to keep the escrow money and relist or go to a backup offer?
No, because the property did close. They're just waiting.
Okay.
They're just waiting for the funding to come in. The documents are signed. It is, everybody's at the mercy of the banks and the wiring and everything.
Okay, that's
So
good to know.
I'd find that to be, if that went to court, boy, I'd find that real hard to stand up in court on that scenario. I mean, they did close. The seller waits until Monday. The seller shouldn't have been closing, the seller wasn't closing on another property. When you're doing back to back, that includes a lot of additional communication. And I've had that happen before where I have their property closes on Tuesday and they're closing on their new property on Wednesday. And that's when you're having communication that you're getting that buyer in there first thing Tuesday morning. You've made that a condition of the closing that they have to, of the transaction. They have to close that morning. So those wires are in, so it can be transferred to the new property. You've got to be strategic about all of that. But in this scenario, I went ahead and took a Friday because it wasn't really any skin off me or off of my seller. But again, I didn't educate that buyer's agent and say, hey, you could be setting your buyer up for failure here. I just let it go. Wasn't really that worried about it. And then look what happened. I mean, this was just a scenario, a week ago that happened. So, these are things that you really need to, again, be paying attention to that happen. And it like I said, it happens. So, communicate with them, make sure you're taking into consideration when it's actually closing and what day of the week it's closing on. Okay, contingencies, minimizing sales contingencies.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
If you are forced to do it on a Friday, would you suggest trying to get it done before noon in case there are other issues?
Just out of curiosity, what would make you be forced to close on a Friday? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I'm just
Okay.
throwing a scenario out there.
Okay, well, you'll find too, working with me, Kevin, I'll give you an example. I had a closing on a Monday and I don't like Mondays, but it was a cash offer. So I was okay. I didn't have to worry about lender situations and money's not coming in and all those issues. I knew they'd be able to have the paperwork ready to go easy. Well, my buyer wanted to close in the morning. Well, I have an 8:30 to 8:45 call. I have a 9 to 10 o'clock appointment. I have a 10:15 conference Zoom call on Monday mornings, and I have an 11 o'clock with you all. So guess what I did? I told my buyer that I was already pre-scheduled on Monday mornings and that we could close at 12:30. I drive the bus with my buyers and sellers 99% of the time. So if you run into that scenario, what I do is if they want to drive the bus, I let them know the consequences of driving the bus. And I tell them straight up what can happen and the reason why I don't recommend them closing on a Friday. And I tell them, if you want to, I need you to acknowledge that I've warned you, and I back it up in writing.
Okay.
Because I'm going to tell you what, people are really quick to blame you for stuff that you had absolutely nothing to do with. So educate and communicate in writing, and you're always saved. Does that help?
Yeah.
But I'm big into driving the bus because I need it to work around my schedule because I need to be there with them no matter what. That's my job, to make sure that they're being, everything is being done accurately and being there to answer questions for them and represent them. So I am booked in the morning. I've made commitments and I simply tell them I can't. And I warn them that right straight up, and I know my schedule on Monday mornings.
But Kevin's scenario is not that unusual because out of town buyers especially will try and use a weekend so that if they come Friday, then they get the weekend or something like that. So
Yep.
Those things do come up. I guess you just have to say no, you have to take a
Yep.
day. off
Well,
and
the
come.
other thing that I do is anytime I have closings, if I have represent the seller, my title company knows you do not schedule my closings. They know that upfront as my biggest peeve. They do not have access to my calendar. And when I'm working with another title company, I let them know, do not schedule my closings. And if they do, Kristen will tell you, she's my assistant on here, that I snap on, I'm like, what are they doing? No. Because I have to stick to my schedule. And my most important time in my schedule is my prospecting time, which it should be, you guys should be guarding that with your life, your prospecting calendar. The only time I ever veer from that is if I have a buyer that absolutely, that's the only time they can go see properties. That is the only time I will lean from that. So back to minimizing contingencies. Shorter home inspection. Have you called the inspector prior to putting the offer in? Now, granted, we have 3 home inspectors that we should be sending to our buyers, but I do communicate with my number 1 person, and I make sure that they've got an opening and I know when it is. All right, I just got a question that came in. What about mail away closings? Mail away closings, you guys, if you know it's going to be a mail away, you could pretty much do it whenever you want to do it. But again, as long as your mail away, your buyer, if it's a buyer, they don't have plans to move items in, and you've got to make sure that the seller isn't depending on that closing in order to close on another property. Because again, you have delays, especially with mail aways. Because if they have to sign the paperwork the day of closing, you're not going to probably have those documents back until the next day. But usually a lot of the lenders will take, things being copied and scanned for it to come through the mail, but you need to find that out. So good question. Thank you. Home sale contingencies.
Gretchen? Hold on a minute, sorry. Sorry, Kevin and our computers are right by each other, that's why it
No
echoes.
worries. I understand.
When you were talking about a mail away, could you kind of just explain to me what you're talking about? Somebody who can't do anything but mail in a contract? What is a mail away? I'm sorry.
Okay, a mail away closing is when your buyer or your
I can't hear.
seller is not going to be physically walking into the title company. So they do what's a mail away. So
I did not, hold on one second. Sorry, I did not hear that because I had the wrong button muted.
no worries. What a mail away is when your buyer or seller isn't physically coming into the title company or the lawyer's office to close.
Okay,
So let's say you and Kevin decide that you want to buy a house in Tahoe, but you're not going to be able to be there because you're going to be on vacation in Hawaii. Trust me, this is reality. This stuff happens all the time.
oh, yeah.
It's crazy. I'm like, must be nice. And you need to send the package, even a loan package, to Hawaii. And the title company, they have to make arrangements for a notary to come meet with the buyer or the seller to sign the documents.
Okay,
So the title company needs to know ahead of time if it's going to be a mail away because they have to make special arrangements. Now, let me give you some other examples. Let's say your seller is in China or Dubai or Germany. You guys, this is reality. We are in Orlando. We are in one of the, I call us the melting pot of the world. We have so many people that are international. So you've got to call, I always call my title company and say, okay, this is the country I'm dealing with. What am I dealing with notary? Sometimes they have to get appointments at the embassies. It can delay paperwork. It can delay funding. It can delay a lot of things. So when that happens, because every scenario can be different, call the title company. Get a relationship with the title company. I mean, I work with Heidi Foster as my sales rep. I work with First American Title. I call Heidi for everything. And Paul is my escrow officer that I work with at First American. I love them. You guys pick who you want to work with. But once you start getting transactions going, I highly recommend that you getting a relationship with somebody that can be your go-to, because these are things that you need to take into consideration. If you're not sure when you're writing offers and you're doing scenarios, you know, any of you can call me, anybody here, even if you're not being coached by me, call me, ask me. I am happy to give you a little bit of guidance as you're still learning. Talk to your mentor, talk to, you know, your broker, talk to somebody that can guide you to say, hey, you need to look out for this and this. Now, the knock program, if you all are not familiar with the knock program, I would recommend getting familiar with the knock program. It is a program with, and I'm not going to go into details, but what happens is the knock program guarantees the buyer, who is now a seller, of purchasing their home if something falls through with their contract with a buyer. So there's never a sales contingency when you're working with the knock program. If you want to know more, let me know. I can steer you in the right direction, but it takes away the home sale contingencies because they don't have to put that in their offer. They're guaranteed, because what happens is they typically close on the new home before they sell their other home. If their other home doesn't sell, knock agrees to purchase the home. So that way knock is advancing them the money for the purchase of the new home. That way they're not having to worry about contingencies, staying in hotels, all those things. It is an amazing program. I have not had the chance to use it yet, but I have presented it to a couple of sellers. So like I said, it's just another thing to put in your goodie bag. That is awesome. Quick loan approval. Talk to your lenders. When can your lenders close? I mean, I work a lot with Jeffrey Sachs, and you know, they can get stuff closed in 10 days. I have another lender partner, Lee Foster, that I work with too. I know exactly what he's dealing with, when he can close, what the scenarios are. You know, that's really, really important sometimes. Remove the financing contingency. I have had a couple of scenarios where I have put in a cash offer because my buyer has the cash to close, but they're still getting a loan for the property. They're backing it up and saying, because I've educated them, that if their financing doesn't get through on time, they're going to pay cash and they'll just refinance the house if they need to, in order to have a chance to win that bid. So again, that's the reason why you need to have that knowledge of the scenario of your buyer. What's going on in their world? Do they, you know, are they selling a home out of state? Knock is in several areas. Could that be an answer to how to handle their scenario? Do they have an A-class motorhome they can camp out in while you're finding a house so you don't have to have, you know, a contingency? You've really got to dive in and understand what's going on in their world. Would it really put you in a really good situation if you can put in an offer and say, yes, they're going to have a financing contingency, but their lender can close in 10 days. That's a pretty good risk, I think. If you've got a, you know, a great offer, rest of your scenario. So you want to be competitive. You've got to look at your home sale contingencies, you know, your loan approval, your financing contingencies. You've got to look at every little aspect of this to minimize it, to have, as if possible, no contingencies. Sometimes you may have a home inspection contingencies. I've seen scenarios where those have been removed. If the house is only a couple of years old, I've seen that, or very, very short inspection periods, because you've been on the horn with the home inspector and you know that they've got an opening, and I'll say, hold it. I'll let you know by tomorrow. So those are all things that you can do to be competitive in this current market that we're in. Okay.
Gretchen, we had a question from one of the folks about the lender's information for Jeff Sachs. So I popped that into chat. So if anybody needs his contact information, it's in there for you.
Awesome. Great lender, you guys. If you've not talked to Jeff Sachs, take his phone number down, have a conversation with him. He's been in the business for years. I have known Jeff since 2002, when he worked at an office right up the street from the Home Builders Association. I think all of a sudden the name of the company just popped out of my head. Home Bank. I don't remember, but I've known him for years. Great guy and knowledgeable. Okay, so why is it important to use a local lender? And I know a couple of you know the answer to this.
Because we're local?
Because we're local, okay?
Because you want a lender who is familiar with the market in which you are purchasing and selling your homes. A
That's
great
right.
example is the Central Florida area with the short-term rentals and such. But you also need to have a lender that is willing to work all hours of the day. And I don't mean to abuse that, all hours of the day, but I always tell my buyers, bankers have quote unquote banker hours. So they may not be making those personal phone calls to the listing agents to talk about what a great buyer you are. And they may also not respond to emails after 5 p.m.
That's right. And I tell my buyers that, you guys, I work with people that are going to bend over backwards to get your loan done on time and accurately, because they don't want to lose me as a referral source. If you work with another lender that I don't know, they have no loyalty to me, they may have no loyalty to you, and we may run into some really choppy situations here. I have a current buyer that I'm working with who is an investor, who is adamant about working with a lender in Colorado. So what I did is I've got their loan approval. I looked the lender up on NMLS. I read all about her, how long she's been in the business, where she's been working. And I called her and I had a conversation with her. And I made a comment about how impressive it was that she's been with the current company that she's been with for, I think it was like 11 years. And she goes, "How did you know that?" I said, "Because I looked you up on NMLS. I said, it's really important for me that I make sure that my buyer is working with somebody that's knowledgeable, that can do business here in Florida. And I have a relationship with, because you and I are going to partner on this. And what you do is just as important as what I do." And I said, I have to make sure that I'm okay with my buyer using you. And she was just blown. She was floored, just absolutely floored. And I had a really long conversation with her about her programs, how they handle Florida, what her knowledge is in Florida, everything. And I have actually agreed on this. Now, I have had to explain to the listing agents when I have put offers in about their lender, because that is another reason why offers aren't accepted, is they're not working with a local lender. And I've explained that we've put in 2 offers. We have not lost them because of the lender, because I've gone to extra lengths to keep the buyer happy, but also make that contingency not an issue. But let me tell you something. I get an offer from Rocket Mortgage. And I'll say this right here, and I'm not afraid to say it. If I get an offer from Bank of America, SunTrust, Wells Fargo, any of those banks, run. They have a problem getting them to the closing table.
Oh,
Historically, it is a big problem. And if one of those loan officers happens to watch this and they want to educate me on something they've done to change their program to get stuff to the closing table, I encourage them to do. But I have massive problems with them. And I'm talking to you because I do quite a few listings. And those are things that I'm looking at, is who that lender is, because it can make or break getting to the closing table. So take that into consideration.
so these
Also-
bigger banks are more troublesome?
I don't think they are. They think that they are. I know they are.
Oh,
They're a nightmare.
wow.
Yeah.
What do you feel about Fairwinds?
That's a credit union. I've always had good success with credit unions. Credit unions really care about their people. They're really, they're really connected to the community as well as their members. And I've had really good success with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great with credit. I've never had a problem with a credit union. You guys, is your lender calling the listing agent and having a conversation with them about how awesome your buyer is? My Colorado lady is on board doing this with me. I mean, I've gotten a relationship with her now. She's become my partner in getting a property for this investor. So make sure that your make sure that your lender is willing to call them, because I'm going to tell you what, Jeffrey Sachs is a pro at it. Okay, let's talk about financing period. All right, so take a look here. This is example 1. Acceptance date, August the 14th, and I'm going to pull a calendar up with a closing date of September the 14th. I'm going to have you guys do some math here, so everybody really pay attention. Acceptance date is August the 14th. Closing date is 9/14. A 30-day closing financing, or excuse me, a 30-day financing contingency.
Wait, say those dates again?
Okay, look right up here at the top, sweetie.
Yeah, sorry.
Acceptance date's okay. August the 14th, closing on 9/14. 30 days.
That doesn't give them time.
Okay, so I'm going to go to the calendar. I skipped things. I want you guys to do the math. Okay, acceptance date was the 14th. So when is day 1, everybody?
The 15th.
15th is day 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, September 1, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. When's your closing date?
September 14th.
So let me ask you all, listing agents, do you want to advise your seller to accept an offer that they can cancel all the way up until the day before closing?
No way.
What do you think? Heck no. Okay. So let's look at this one. 8/14, closing date on 9/10. So just to save us a little bit of time, this was the 30th, 29, 28, 27. Is that a little bit better? Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's better. I typically put in a 20-day acceptance. And my lenders that I'm working with know that I'm doing that we have to have loan approval. So make sure, oh wait, I'm sorry. This one does have 20 days. My bad. Sorry. Okay, so that was 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20. Okay, there we go. Closing is September the 14th and their financing contingency ends on September the 3rd. Now, what do y'all think of that date? Is that better?
Much better.
Much better. Now, are you going to throw 20 in there without talking to this lender to make sure that you know how this lender works? Say it's a buyer that came to you that's working with XYZ mortgage company that you've never worked with.
No, you should speak to the lender first.
Yep. I always call the lenders as soon as I get the pre-approvals and have conversations with them up front. I mean, I look them up. If my buyer is adamant about working with them, and that does happen sometimes, and they do have the right to work with whoever they want, I check them out. I talk to them. I talk to the buyer and find out how they met them. How are they referred to them? I sometimes will encourage them to pick up the phone and call one of my other partners and say, just get a comparison. Just know your options. Okay, now we're going to go back to example 1. We've talked about this. Your financing dates. You guys pay close attention to this. This can make or break you. Now let's look here. I know this is petty, but your loan application date. Why does the buyer need 3 days or 5 days? I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. It's not the day that they have to hand in all their bank statements. It's the day that they go in and actually complete the application so that they can be given a good faith estimate as part of their due diligence. I a lot of times put 1 on here. I highlight that in my offers that they will apply for their loan in 1 day, and I bold it. There is no reason that that can't be done right away. And I'll tell you why. Because when you've got a shorter financing period, the quicker that lender can get started on this file, the better. And if you've got right here, they've got 5 days and they get to cancel the day right before closing. I mean, even if this offer, you guys, was higher, I would have major problems with this no matter what. And I want you to know that every offer that I got was very similar to these types of scenarios, except for the one offer that we accepted. Now,
Gretchen?
this one, yes.
Hey, just an FYI, it is noon. So I just wanted to, if anybody
Okay.
had to jump off the call, but we can keep
Okay.
going if everybody else is okay.
Yep, we're getting closer to the end. Sorry, I get a little chatty.
It
Now-
will cut us off for recording is one of the reasons I wanted to mention that.
Oh, can we keep the recording going? Or are we going to lose the end of the class?
I think we're okay. I think we had to be, I think it will cut off though. I'm not sure how long of a grace
Okay.
period we have, but just
Got
an
it.
FYI.
Okay, now this one was 5 days. Is that challenging on this? Yes. It depends on your scenario. So pay close attention to this. 20 days, 5 days, 1 day. Okay, we've looked at our calendar. Okay, hurdles, appraisals. Is your customer able to completely waive an appraisal contingency? Do they feel confident with where the market is? Do they have enough monies to make up the difference? Can your client bridge the gap between the amount of the dollars between the appraisal and the sales price? I've had buyers doing that as well. They're offering to pay monies over appraisal, but it has to appraise at a minimum of XYZ. The appraisal must come in at the asking price. There you go. Client will pay any difference between asking and the contract price. I've won offers where it has to appraise for the minimum of asking, and my seller or my buyer is willing to pay $10,000 over the appraised value, not to exceed the contract sales price. When you go to write an offer and you're in this scenario, talk it through with somebody. See how it sounds. Go back over this and run some scenarios. Inspection period. Count the days, count the weekends. Do you guys know that if it closes, if it lands on a weekend, then it extends to Monday at 5. Call your inspector ahead of time. So here's another one, acceptance on the 14th, a 7-day. 7 days. So acceptance is the 14th. Here's the 15th is day 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They might as well have asked for an 8, 9-day inspection at 5 p.m. because that's what that inspection request is. 9 days, last day, 5 p.m. Or do you want to ask for a 5-day inspection? So day 1, 15th, because the acceptance was the 14th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one's better?
5.
Exactly. Look at your calendars when you're asking for these.
I have a question.
You could have even asked for 6 and probably still been okay on this one because it's not going into the weekend. But asking me, asking for 7 and having it land on a weekend is adding on extra days. Yes.
Never mind. I figured it out. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. Home warranty, yes or no? In this market, it might be better to ask your buyer to pay for their own home warranty. Because again, that's another contingency, another ask, just like asking for that chandelier. And don't forget, I am giving, you guys will have a copy of this whole PowerPoint and presentation. Creative ideas. Do you need an escalation clause to beat the other offer's price? Do you need to ask for a post occupancy with free rent, offering the seller that they can stay in the house for an additional 30 days? There is some additional things that need to be done to do that correctly. Do you want to maybe offer to pay for some of the closing costs? Does the buyer want to offer to pay for some of the agent's commission? Do you want to pay for the seller's moving costs?
Sorry.
I mean, there are all kinds of very creative things that are going on in our current market where the buyers are trying to be more creative in order to win those bids. Those are examples of that we are seeing. So right here, you've got your appraisal contingencies, your sale of your buyer's property, and your escalation clause. Do you know how often I get offers, you guys, where they have not filled in all this information on here? It's blank. They didn't even put the homeowners association. Is there an appraisal contingency? Have they asked for an escalation clause? So make sure that these are properly filled out. And I'll show you here. This particular agent even put in seller's disclosure as an addendum. You see that sometimes. But here's the escalation clause. This is the one I really wanted to talk about. This particular escalation clause says the buyer agrees to pay $5,000 over highest offer, not to exceed blank. So if they get an offer in at $500,000 and your buyer offers $490,000, then this buyer is saying that they'll pay $5,000 over the highest offer. So if it's $500,000, they're willing to pay $505,000. But what is it not going to exceed? They may say they're willing to pay no more than $10,000 over the asking price. So that would be $510,000. The escalation clauses win offers all the time. Just make sure you know what your max is that your buyer is willing to pay over asking price.
And we usually do them in $1,000 increments. Is that true?
I've seen them in 500. I've seen 5. I've actually had a buyer that wasn't in the market that we're in, but we do them for 500 over the highest.
Oh,
I
okay.
wouldn't do that in this market because 500 really isn't going to get you any.
Right.
And Gretchen, we had another question. Is this the same as option money?
I don't know what option money is. I don't know that term. Option money. What is option money? Nobody?
We'll see if they post that in the chat.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. All right, no handwritten offers. Fill everything out. Make sure your offer is completely filled out. Look for the star next to the line numbers. Include all MLS attachments. If it is there, put in the seller's disclosure and the HOA disclosure. If they want the offer done a certain way or a certain form needs to be filled out, do it. Follow the offer instructions. Follow the listing agent's offer instructions because it can make a difference. They want it clean. They've got a reason that they're doing it. Yes, it's more work for us, but they're dealing with multiple offers right now. Always have your offer looked at until you've got this down. You know, anybody that's mentoring, the first 3 offers have to be reviewed anyhow. I've got agents that have graduated out of the program and they still send me their offers to peek at. And I can look at it on my phone in a matter of like a minute and say, you're missing this, or it looks great. So remember, that's really, really important that you fill everything out. Take those contract classes, learn how to fill out your contract. The highest offer is not always the winning offer. It's about the whole big picture. So you want to email the completed offer. Always make sure that you have completed offer with pre-approval. How to contact you. Do not CC your e-sign session to the listing agent. Oh my God, I hate it when agents do that. It's like, I don't know how to get a hold of them. I always send my offers with, I actually am now doing a video with my offer and you know, describing everything about the offer, all the points. Send the listing agent a text message. I email it and text them that I just emailed them an offer. You guys ever heard of junk mail? It happens. So make your offer, send out a video under 1 minute. Share your buyer's story. Present the highlights on your client's offer, not the details, the highlights. Show the listing agent you are a professional they want to work with. They want to work with you. You know your stuff. And compliment the listing agent. We're just about done, guys.
Hey, Alex, Jeff Funk with the Funk Collection, brokered by eXp Realty. I wanted to send you a quick video email with my customer's offer on your property over at 123 Main Street. Underneath here, you'll see all the offer details along with their all the files and everything that was on the MLS. They absolutely love the property. They love the location. I had lunch with them downtown Winter Garden, and they just fell in love with the area. They love the West Orange Trail. They love that there's golf carts going to the golf cart district there. Just absolutely fell in love with it. So love to get this done with you. There's also information on their pre-approval. So the local lender, he is rock solid, always gets the job done for us. And on a personal note, you know, I've seen your name in the MLS so many times, and it would be just awesome to do a deal with you. Okay. I've heard great things about you, and I'm really looking forward to working with you. Okay. Have an awesome day, and let me know any questions you have or anything that we need to do to maybe sweeten the pot on this deal. Okay. Take care. Bye.
What do you think of that?
Puts a smile on your face.
Yes, it does. And our whole team's been sending that out, our offers now that way. Bye. All right, guys, you need me? Here's my info. Give me a shout. This will be on YouTube. We'll have it posted that you can